Welcome to Musicians versus the World, the podcast where we explore aspects of music and musician life that may not have been covered in music school. I am your host, Christine Smith, and today we are looking behind the scenes into the world of an independent record label. My guests today are Dina Rizvic and Alan Jones of Cliff End Records. Dina Rizvic is a versatile artist, excelling as a multi-instrumentalist, composer, producer, and chart-topping singer. Alan Jones is a composer, writer, and award-winning international lawyer. In 2020, they established Cliff End Records, which stands at the forefront of music innovation. The company is renowned for creating original compositions across diverse mediums and is also celebrated for its work uplifting independent artists and composers. With a network spanning London, England, Zagreb, Croatia, and Los Angeles, the label is a haven for artists who are looking for collaborators committed to freedom, support, and boundless creativity. So Dina and Alan, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to Musicians versus the World.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I am so excited to chat with you. Thanks for taking the time to come and talk to me a little bit about yourselves and about Cliff End Records. I'm excited to hear about this business adventure that you both have taken on. But before we get into that, I would love to hear a little bit about your own background. So Dina, let's start with you. Have you always wanted to be a musician? How did you get to be where you are right now?
Yeah, it was always my favorite thing. I started when I was around 5 years old, so it was my favorite game as a child. I remember playing on a little synth, and my parents recognized the talent and helped me get into the classical education. So I graduated in piano percussion. I started to simultaneously explore other genres like jazz and songwriting. I was signed for a major record label in Croatia at the age of 16, and I released my first album when I was 18. And then I found out about Berklee College of Music in Boston. I applied for the audition, and I got a scholarship. So I graduated from Berklee in contemporary writing and production. And yeah, I always knew that music is something that I want to do full time. After Berklee, I came back to Croatia for a little while, and I worked as a freelance composer, arranger, performer for the national television. And after that, I moved to London for the master's in audio production. I met Alan there, and we started to work together as Cliff End Records. And that's pretty much it where I'm now.
That is such a wow. You made that seem so short, but there is so much packed in there. Do you have a specific genre that you enjoy the most? It seems like you have lots of interests.
I don't really, I cannot really categorize myself in one particular style because I love every style of music. And also I like scoring for visuals as well. I recently released an EP, which is album, which is more electronic pop music. So I cannot really pigeonhole myself. I just generally enjoy good music.
Yeah, I agree. That's really exciting. And Alan, how about you? You are also a lawyer and a writer. What's your background?
Well, I was brought up in a musical family. My parents moved from Wales. Wales is part of the United Kingdom, but they moved to London early on in their married life. I was born in London, and I was brought up in the London Welsh community. Now, Welsh people are generally known as being very musical. You have choirs, male voice choirs, all that kind of thing. My father was a music teacher, and he was an organist in our church. And he introduced me to the piano very early on and the guitar. And I was a boy soprano, had an audition at the Covent Garden. And I was kind of like really into it. So I was about 14, 15, 16. I was in a rock band at that time. And I was keen on going to a drama school, a music school. My dad said to me, son, he said, there's no money in music, son. You know, I'm a teacher. I'm advising you here now. I really am. Look, take it seriously. You've either got to be an accountant or a lawyer. So at that point, I was a bit too young to realize what was best for me, except that, I mean, the thought of, not having to sort of like, scrounge around for bread and butter and tea and coffee and that kind of thing. I went into a law degree, did the law degree, and went into a legal career for the last 20, 30 years. And I've been very lucky. I've been all over the world internationally, working on projects all over the place. My love of music's never really faded. And about 3-4 years ago, I was able to had more time on my hands and started playing the guitar again, the piano again. And I realized that actually I hadn't forgotten some of the skills I knew when I was younger. Maybe I'm not very technical as a composer, but I'm certainly got something perhaps a bit natural, which comes from my father, no doubt. And then I went out looking for somebody to teach me properly, and I met Dina, and there we go. And then we went to Clifton Records. It was all meant to be eventually.
Wait, so Dina, you were Alan's teacher?
Yes, because I also teach piano, guitar, music theory, and we basically met over an online website which connects teachers and students. So yeah, he reached out to me. He wanted to have lessons in guitar, and he showed me his songs that he composed, and I found it very interesting, and I arranged it. He liked it, so it was an instant kind of connection, and yeah, that's how we basically started.
Oh my goodness, what a story. Wait, now how does that go from making music and collaborating to creating an entire company of Cliff End Records? There's a long gap right there. What happened? Alan, can you explain kind of how you went from teacher to business partner? I guess student to business partner.
I kind of, in this business, you've got to realize you've got to put people around you that fill in the gaps that you're not capable of filling yourself. You have to find the talent and the team and all the rest of it. And in Dina, I saw somebody instantly who was extremely talented, very, empathetic and, sympathetic of all my musical mistakes kind of thing. And I said to her one day, I said, Dina, where's your real, I knew that Dina was very successful in Croatia as a musician. I didn't want to get in the way of any of that. But I said to her, look, I think that with music, what I'd love to do is to create music for film and TV. I've always been a great film buff. I've always been a great music buff in films, and partly for my family, I reckon. And I said, look, do you think we can get into this a little bit? What about? I'd heard some of Dina's work when she was actually in Berkeley. She had to do a project at the end of her term, if you like, a song called Imaginarium. It was a fantastic orchestral work. And I kind of saw one or two other things. I thought, this is great for film. And I don't know whether I, pushed her or slightly persuaded her, but that particular piece of music ended up being in the HMMA Awards in 2022, and she won the best new emerging composer for a piece of music. And I kind of felt instinctively it was a film thing. And at about in about 2020, we decided that let's have a go at setting up a company. We'll put our effort into recording some stuff. We went out to Zagreb, and we put an orchestral team together, and it went from there, really. Maybe we can talk about it a little bit more, but a bit later. But it's happened naturally, which is probably the best way for things to work.
Wow, that's amazing. And Dina, what were you thinking when Alan came to you with this idea?
Well, I always had this need to connect people in music, because when I was at Berkeley, I met so many international musicians from all over the world who are so talented and great at what they do. But I felt like we all kind of had a similar story where as soon as you get a bigger opportunity for certain record label or certain company, it immediately starts to be very mathematical, which it has to be. There has to be a certain balance between the profit and the art, but oftentimes it changes the whole structure of what they want to do, how they want to look, how they want to represent themselves. There's not a lot of space where artists can be who they are without changing their vision. So I feel like when I spoke to Alan, he recognized that potential that not just me, but also other people that we work with have, and he wanted to create this kind of platform, which is Cliff End Records, that hopefully will empower more musicians and more artists to keep their own idea of who they are, but just find their own audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And congratulations. I didn't really know much about the industry, Christine, before I started all of this, but I did know a little bit about talents. I've spent my whole life traveling around the place, seeing talented people all over the place. And I realized that Dina was somebody that couldn't really be pigeonholed. You asked the question, what was her favorite genre kind of thing? It's a really good question. And with Dina, I could see that she was great at this, that, and the other. And I thought, there's so many people out there that can go in all sorts of different directions. And one shouldn't tie them down. You've got to let them be truthful to themselves and try and just be there and offer a platform, if you like, where people can choose what they want, what they couldn't. I was in the fortunate position of having spent some time as a lawyer, a little bit of money behind me, so I could, if you like, indulge isn't the right word, but I could spend some time following my dream a bit. And with Dina and the people I've met and all the rest of it, we're able to create this journey, which has become more than a dream, become more of a reality now, which is really pleasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations to both of you. And Dina, on your award. Congratulations on that. That's really exciting to have your artwork recognized for how great it is. If we can kind of follow along with that, you were talking about not being pigeonholed and, the numbers and things. If we were to talk about a traditional role of a recording label or a publishing label, what is the traditional role of that type of company? And why you've kind of touched on why Cliff End Records is a little bit different, but maybe Alan, if you want to explain traditionally, what does a label do for a musician?
Well, it was all about recording audio, and record labels started from that. I think Columbia was the first record label. And it took off, and people like Elvis Presley and the rest of it went to a record label. There wasn't such a thing as publishing so much in those early days. I mean, the difference basically is that when record labels record artists, they basically sort of take a piece of music, a composition, and they record it. Publishers traditionally, when you publish music, it was all about sheet music. It was all about, Mozart prepared a piece of music. He made his money from performance and selling a few bits of paper with notes on it. That's the publishing side of it. So I think the two traditions merged fairly quickly in the 20th century. I mean, the big record companies eventually came down to about three, I think. There's Warner, the Universal, Sony. They've all got their little record labels underneath that. And they've all got their publishing bits underneath that. And they all offer now a mix of services. But I think the traditional split is still there. And we try to be a bit, perhaps we'll talk about that later. We try to be a little bit different from that. You're either, with a record label, you're either recording the artist, publishing house, you're either actually looking after composition and the rights, all the rest of it. And that's the split. But actually, that's a bit of an artificial thing. If you want to be a real facilitator of a musician's talent, you've got to kind of like cross the whole boundary of these things, I think. Otherwise, you can kind of box yourself in. And that's where an independent company has a bit of an advantage. Well, at least I hope it does. That's what we're trying to achieve.
So what is the advantage of being a smaller company, more independent company?
Well, I mean, well, first of all, when there's two owners of a company and when there's a group of people that just want to make great product, then you're not tied down by rules, regulations, budgets, teams, departments, targets, all that kind of stuff. Our philosophy has always been, we create the music first, we worry about the money second. Now we've got to come to the point where you realize that you can't actually create good music without having some kind of discipline on the money. So that's also true, of course. But I mean, in the early days of Cliff End Records, we wanted to produce a great portfolio of work. And that's partly why we went into some of these awards, etc., to prove to ourselves that we could achieve a good quality of level. And once you do that, then I think, with God's help, with the universe's help, everything else will follow. And that's kind of the philosophy we've had.
Yeah. And then, Dina, when you say you try to empower artists and navigate them through a vast ocean of musical opportunities and possibilities, what are some things that you do with Cliff End Records that really empowers these independent musicians?
Well, first of all, we listen to their needs. We hear the music out, and we try not to change the initial idea. And it's very much about the open communication with the artist, what they want to do, how they want to represent themselves. Where do they see themselves? Because every music genre and every song has its own kind of path, and we try to do the best that we can in terms of music production. So organizing the session if it's needed, getting the rehearsals in, speaking with the potential musicians who can promote the music afterwards, the live gigs. But most importantly, not, like I said in the beginning, not change the vision that the artist comes in with, because as soon as you come in with certain, let's say, agenda, okay, this can fit a certain profile. If we adjust a few things, it immediately kind of already sets up a tone of the record label trying to control the person instead of support or empower. So that's kind of, I think, the main thing that we start with.
Mm-hmm. And so if a musician comes to you, like an independent musician comes to you and says, this is my vision, this is what I want to do, what are the steps that they go through as they work with you on a project?
First, we go through the demo songs that they either send us or any ideas that they send in. We get a good quality product afterwards, and we basically research where it could be great to set the music in. So, for example, radio stations that could play that sort of music. We are more still in the beginning of exploring the UK market for that, because some of the radios like BBC has channel called Music Introducing, where it opens up for new artists. So just figuring out, brainstorming what would be the best way to get their music out, and what kind of profile will it be for their live performances. What's the group setting that they need? So just trying to figure out also budget-wise, financially, how it will be working out. But yeah, that's pretty much how we're working through.
Yeah.
I'll give you a practical example of that, actually.
Great.
We had a demo in about a year or so ago from two friends of ours that run a studio in Zagreb, Igor and Sven. And it was a basically guitar, chords, rhythm, melody, lovely thing. They didn't sing because they'd probably admit to themselves they can't sing. And they didn't have all the arrangement there, they didn't have all the backing there. And I said to Dina, this is really good. Dina wasn't quite so sure, but she came along with it. And then Dina arranged a little bit of melody to it. I wrote some lyrics because they hadn't done any lyrics. This song was absolutely looking out for lyrics. It was a cool jazz kind of song. But we said to them, look, do you want this kind of a help? We didn't say, we're not going to do anything unless we said, we can help you with all of these different aspects. Not just about recording what you've done, because you haven't actually completed what you're doing. You haven't completed your vision, but we like what you're doing. We like to help you get there. And it ended up then being recorded. Dina sang on it. We produced it. We actually put it into the HIMA Awards, the Hollywood Independent Music Awards in September. And we won the best song for smooth, cool jazz with that song called Moment, featuring Dina. So, and that, if you like, is something which record labels and publishers don't do. I mean, we could be a part of the whole journey, or we could just be at the end of it, recording in the studio and helping to produce it and arranging an editor, a mixer and a masterer. We've got these people lined up with a lovely guy called Brian Vibberts. He's a 7 times Grammy Award-winning guy in LA. We worked with him. He mixed that particular song for us. And so we put the team together. So this is what we can offer. This is what we mean by empowering. We try not to dictate, but we can actually, if we like something, help people get to where they want to get to. That's kind of the story.
Yeah, so you can offer as much help from the beginning all the way to the end for these musicians.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. So
you
must choose your projects pretty carefully then. With so much, it seems you put much into it. Now, as a lawyer, that must help when dealing with contracts and dealing with all of the legal and royalties sort of aspect of it. What is something that a musician needs to know if they come to you? What's something that can help them kind of navigate that legal side, the contract side, copyright side to all of this?
Well, I think it's important. Unfortunately, it is important to put something down on paper before you actually release something. I mean, I've made the mistake before of just shaking hands, and then we do a song, and then at the end of it, you have a bit of a discussion about who does what, who did what, all that kind of stuff. To avoid that kind of thing, it's better to be clear up front. There are so many different types of monetization schemes, royalty streams in music. It's difficult to sometimes follow them all. But like you identified earlier, it's important to know the difference between what a record company is, what master recording is, what a composition is. Who the composers are, and if somebody writes the lyrics, do they have where are they in this kind of scheme of things, and being registered with all the right people. I think, my own field of law wasn't in a musical rights kind of thing. So I've been catching up a bit on this. It's complex, but my advice is always to write it down. Try and just speak common, in a common sense way, what it is you expect, what you need, and then if we can help you actually put it into the right kind of form, fine. But go off and check it if you want to. Because, I mean, we're not at the moment. We're at the stage, and I think hopefully we'll always be at this stage where we believe that the music dictates the success. It's that way around. It's not about controlling people. It's not about trying to win a point here because the musician doesn't really quite know what they're doing, kind of thing. We don't have templates where we say you either sign this or we're not working for you. We create it as we go along. And that's, I think because we're small enough, because we're agile enough and flexible enough, that's a kind of fortunate place to be. And we do have people obviously helping us. We have a social media and a backup team, all the rest of it. But we can still work on a very center basis around the particular artist that we're talking to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. It's a very personal business strategy, it seems like, taking things one person at a time and kind of customizing things to what they need and what their music needs. That's pretty amazing. How do you balance that with keeping your business successful? Dina, how do you do that?
Well, we're still in kind of beginning stages. We're still learning a lot, like Alan says, on many fronts. But so far we are at the point where we're still mainly creating catalog and number of people that we're working with, and we're slowly releasing things, and we're just trying to focus on producing the quality work. And it may not be shown yet in a financial way fully, but I feel like with these awards and nominations for the independent record label or for the songs that we've submitted, not just us as an artist that we kind of composed or helped people finish their music, but we also did a song in Spanish called La Sombra, where it also got another award. So we're just basically trying to expand our range of people that we're working with, but still focusing on the quality side.
Yeah, well, any startup, it takes a few years before things, and I like that you're getting that good, solid foundation in the quality. I think that absolutely is the way to go with that. So let's talk about, I love it that you found a need in the music business and you're kind of finding your own path in that. And I find that so inspiring for other musicians. When a musician says, I know I like this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to help other musicians do it. So I would love to hear what a day in the life is for you as a musician and as a business owner at the same time. So Dina, let's start with you. What is like a typical day for you, both as a composer and as a musician and as an owner of Cliff End Records?
Well, because I'm still working also as a teacher, I have quite a lot of students as well during the week, so I have to cover that part of the day. Then the other part is more creative of writing down new ideas. I try to write a little bit every day, even if it's just for a few bars or a few lines of lyrics. And in terms of the business side, we tend to have weekly meetings, Alan and I, just to keep up with the dates or in schedules about the project we are doing, if we're managing it properly, because we're, again, not just producing, but also releasing the new music and making sure that everything is on schedule in terms of distribution or music video, contacting the radio editors. So that's roughly how the day is split. Every day is kind of a little bit different, but generally I try to cover those three areas by doing the students part, creative, and then managing the business part.
So there's no time for sleep then, it doesn't sound like.
Not really, yeah.
How about you, Alan? Is your day similar to that?
Well, I mean, not really. I don't teach anybody music, so that's kind of the first thing. I mean, I've got a few suggestions to Dina now and again in some of her things, but I mean, a typical day. Well, okay. Yesterday, for example, we both of us met up with one of our colleagues, collaborators, who's our mastering engineer. a really nice guy called Ollie Dow, and he used to work for Sony. He's now doing a lecturing in a university in London. I met up with him because he's organising an introduction for us into a very, very special studio owned by a really, really excellent person, where we're going to be producing a piano album in the spring. So we sat down with him and we worked out, what we're going to do, how we're going to see him, and what this album's going to look like. So we did a bit of template on that. I then left the meeting. I came back. I did a little bit of legal work. Because I'm still doing a little bit of legal work now and again, and then prepared ourselves for a panel session we had last night, organised by a PR company that I highly recommend, that's been helping us out, Impact 24 in LA. They've been looking after us a little bit, and we had a nice panel session with them, met up with some really interesting people, and spent some time with that. And that was the day, really. I mean, we have some posts have been going out. We actually were very lucky. We've won six awards for 6 songs with the LIT Talent Awards, and we've been posting about that. We've got a song for a really excellent Japanese artist who just won the Hiroshima Music Award, Utaku Toyama, who's a friend of ours. So it's a lot of work. I mean, but it's fun work. And when you talk about putting things into the bank and getting the balance right. I mean, at the moment, as Dina says, we're creating a lot of credits in our bank account just through the personal relationships and the people, and that's just as important as the money side of things for now. And we do believe in it, and we believe that one of these things is going to really hit off, and one or more of these artists will hit off, and it's just a fun time. Every day is a fun time.
Yeah, sounds like a dream job. It sounds so fun. How are you meeting all of these? How are you meeting all of these international musicians? Like, how are you finding the projects that you choose?
Well, a lot of them are coming from my Berkeley time. I stayed in touch with a lot of musicians that I met there. Some of them I met in UK, because whether we are aware of it or not, music is a great tool to connect with people on many levels, and it's a language, so it's a very universal one. And I love connecting musicians from around the world. So yeah, that's just generally how we started building the small community around us, and who wants to create good music. So it's a bit from US, a bit from UK, from Croatia, and yeah. It's very international. We're lucky to have them with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I think both in music and in business, the relationships that you build with people are so important. And I think it's being able to work with other people is very much on par with your musical abilities in success and in helping people become successful. So I love that. Alan, what are some things that have surprised you as you've been on this journey with Cliff End Records and your own composing, because you've been doing your own composing and your own music? What are some things that have surprised you over the past couple of years?
Well, it surprised me. It's only good, to be honest with you, Christine. I was quite surprised by that. And that's the first thing. But I guess, I mean, I think what surprised me is that if you just talk openly to people, I mean, somebody said once upon a time, if you actually say, I know so-and-so, then after about 5 different names, you know everybody in the world, kind of thing, And it did surprise me a bit. I was introduced by an architect, friend of mine, to an independent film director, nice guy, very nice guy called Werner Schumann, who's got some really great awards and films out there. And I went to meet him. I had lunch with him, and I said, so who do you use to composing? What have you been doing? And then he said, well, I work with a chap called Glenn Gabriel, and it turned out that Glenn Gabriel is a really, really excellent Scandi kind of a Scandinavian folk music composer, really well known. And then as a result of that, we met with Glenn, and then Dina said, well, why don't we invite Glenn to Croatia and spend a few days with us out there? And Glenn, surprisingly, said, well, I'll come to Croatia. That's fine. Spent a week with us in Croatia, and there we were chatting away. We played some other things to him, and he said, why don't you, actually, this is quite good what you're doing. Why don't you submit to the HMMA Awards some of your pieces? Okay, so we did that. Next surprise was that we had 2 nominations at the HMMA Awards. One for the best, this is the Hollywood Music Media Awards. It's out yesterday as well. It's this last year's one. we got best nomination, best sci-fi fantasy, one of Dina's songs, and the other ones I mentioned earlier was this orchestral piece, Imaginarium, and that won best new emerging composers. There's been surprises all the way, Christine, but you've got to be bold enough to actually talk to people. I mean, talking to you today is going to be wonderful, I'm sure, because hopefully we'll keep in touch and all the rest of it, and you never know where things go, as long as you kind of are open and honest about your ambitions and your hopes and your dreams, and you share and you try and help each other out. That's it's been surprising that kind of thing works so well. And I'm in this world of ours these days, it's reassuring to know that something that's basic at that is still out there, and it's good for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dina, what is something that you have learned throughout the last couple of years?
Well, I'm learning every day how much it takes to be a freelance artist in today's music world, because it changed so much.
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you need to just think about so many things, not just the music part. And it feels like almost music is like on the 10th place. Everyone spends so much time about social media, marketing, how it's going to look like. Not to talk even about the whole hyper production, how many songs need to get ready and before you're even releasing the first thing, and how quickly everything needs to be. It's just, it's a bit overwhelming, but at the same time, it's something that we need to learn to adapt with the time and just not lose the focus on what we actually want to do. And I'm like I said, I'm learning every day on many different angles, also from the music business side, and because I've always felt more, I'm the creative side of the music industry, but without the business side and managing, it's really, really hard to succeed. And that's why I feel like with this knowledge and experience we have, Al and I together, we can offer more to people around us and also to things that we're doing. So yeah, these are kind of the lessons that I'm still learning through today.
It's kind of a lifelong pursuit. You're always learning because things keep on changing. And it feels like you feel like you get a grasp on something and then it changes and you have to learn something new. But I love it that you both are working so hard to help both yourselves and other musicians along their way with this. I just really respect that and I love it. And I wish you all the best in your endeavors. As we finish up, what last minute advice do you have for aspiring musicians? Dina, we'll start with you and then we'll finish up with Alan.
That's a good question. I mean, I think I would say just to stay true to yourself and to always to believe in the vision that you have, even though you may not have a lot of people who believe in it with you, but ultimately it will come true if you work hard towards it, and just keep at it.
Yeah. Great. Alan, do you have any last minute advice?
Well, yeah, I echo that. I mean, you've got to stay positive and never give up and keep smiling. And, if you've got a creative streak in you, you mustn't let it disappear. You mustn't let it fade. Whatever that creativity might be. It could be painting, writing, walking your dog in a beautiful scenery and enjoying that scenery. But you've got to do it. There's no point not doing it. Otherwise, you regret that as life goes by. So keep going.
Oh, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Dina. You both are just wonderful. I wish you all the success in the world, and I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to hear more of the music. If people are looking for you, where can they find you? Where can they find Cliff End Records? Alan, you want to let us know?
Well, we're on the Instagram, Cliff End Records, at Cliff End Records. You can find some Dina's music as well as Dina Rizvic music. You can find that as well. Website. Anywhere else, Dina? Where else are we? Well, we've got various things out on Spotify, Apple, all that kind of stuff. That's all going there, and you'll hear more of us. We'll be back. Arnold, we'll be back.
I sure hope so. With even more awards in your register. Yeah. Well, thank you so much to both of you. It has been so wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thank you.